too much, but it doesn't really inspire greatness from me. It's maybe some humor at best. This is, of course, a haiku at its best. I don't know if you actually appreciate haiku. It's meant to be something that kind of is nature imagery that kind of breaks the idea down. So this idea of an old silent pond, a frog jumps into the pond, splish goes the water. I actually like it. There's some about snowflakes. They're a pretty powerful thing if you actually get it right. But maybe instead of being a person who appreciates literature, you're a graphic designer, you can appreciate art. So here you go. This is kind of what I'm talking about today. If you haven't seen this, this is one of my favorite memes that have ever come out on the internet. You see this really beautiful beginning to a horse, or rather the end of a horse, right? But you can tell at a certain part, the artist's heart just wasn't in it anymore, right? Maybe there was a deadline, maybe they're coming across some time crunch, who knows? But the rest, as they say, again, is history. Why must hate come so easy? Namely from the clowns. So, Wimber, if you're following his story along, this is one of my favorite Wimber stories. John Wimber was a big man in the early vineyard, and he was speaking in a trip to Japan. And I love this story because it tells me a lot about our movement, and it tells me a lot about kind of where we come from. And Wimber was on a plane. He arrived in Japan. It was his first time being in Asia. There was this big hoopla over, John Wimber from these vineyard churches. Mighty things are happening in God across the world. This is it. This is the guy. And the expectations are high. So they do their thing. They've got worship. They've got prayer. And he comes up to speak. And he says, I got nothing. I'm going to go back to the hotel, y'all. And everybody's like, what are you talking about? He's like, if you want, I could stand up here and wave my hands around and like try to act like something's going on, but I got nothing. So we could put on a show, or I could go back to the hotel, get some sleep, and we'll check in tomorrow. And what the story goes is that he went back to the hotel, got a full night's rest, came back, and everything was as expected the next day. The Lord moved, and he was there, and everything was there. I share this story because there's two things. I want to say, first of all, I'm inclined to think that God is always moving, right? That the shortcoming is not on his side. I think Wimber was tired. I think he was exhausted. I don't think he was connecting it. And the fact that we could have the integrity to say, I got nothing. My well's dry right now. I don't want to be creative. I don't want to make things up. I don't want to try to just imagine things or just put on and carry on as if everything is as it is. I'd rather give you my heartfelt most whenever I'm at my best. That is a place of integrity that I would like to be a part of. Right? This captures, I think, so much about what the vineyard is about. But he was tired. He couldn't discern. And I don't know if it's fair to say that maybe he just didn't carry that much, because carrying requires energy, right? And you have to engage with this. One of the sayings that we've kicked around for a while is that ministry is always inconvenient. I don't know if you've noticed that. Ministry is always inconvenient. It costs you something, and that's okay. That's part of the bill of sale. That's what we understand when we sign up to do this thing, is that we will be inconvenienced from the way that we would be Lord of our own lives, because he is instead Lord of all. So when we participate in ministry, we are ceding our lives to him. So yes, I don't think he was engaged, but God was still faithful. When your heart is involved, it's evident. When your heart is engaged in something, it comes out. I think we can see this. I think there's proof of this. There's an ongoing joke in my family, right? You ever notice the difference in the burgers and the commercials that you get? You see the one on the left, and you think, yes, that would be fantastic. And then you receive the one on the right. And you're not as happy as you thought you could be, right? And what we say is, right, it was not made with any love. Right? And this is the joke. Now, I will say there are dishes that I have made in my house for my family that are 100% love that are pretty close to inedible. Love does not conquer all when it comes to these sorts of things, right? But it does set up for a better camera shot whenever we're talking about things like this. The fear of the practices that we just finished up, the practicing the way, right? we had this conversation with those who were teaching in that series, and what we thought was that it might actually encourage doing without being fully engaged. And that's almost maybe a silly, nitpicky thing, but that was kind of one of the fears that we had, is that we would have people that are going through the motions of faithfulness without actually having their hearts involved. That they'd be mouthing prayers, but their heart doesn't feel them. That they would be sacrificing meals through fasting, but it really makes no difference, as we saw with the Isaiah 53 passage, right? This idea that we might do all of these things, right? I can't do the robot dance like you should in the 80s. We'll cut that from the YouTube portion. But this is what Isaiah warned us about, right? Is that these people honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me. And that is this fear that our bodies might go through these things, that we could be like Wimber on that stage and just feel like we have a part to play, and I know the words that I should be saying, and I'm just going to fake it till I make it, and we're going to act the part without actually being engaged in the part. And Jesus quotes that in Matthew 15. For those who are my age, you might hate this part, and I'm already cringing a little bit. Maybe you can relate, because we mocked Captain Planet pretty hard. If you didn't know this, church, you should know Captain Planet. They're coming out with a brand new Captain Planet. Yeah, and he's like a buff, like Captain America looking guy now. The mullet is gone, which is actually pretty tragic, because I think mullets are coming back. So there are mullets now that are cool, but Captain Planet, famously with a mullet, it's going to be gone. But this was the thing. There is a Planeteer. If you don't know that, there's these kids with rings, and they're the Planeteers. There's a Planeteer who has the power of heart. And we laughed at this poor kid. He was just a cartoon, but we laughed at this poor kid. Because here, let me show you the very beginning. What you really have is earth, wind, fire, and water. Kwame is the first guy. He's got earth. Let me tell you what he can do. He can create small earthquakes. He can move rocks. He can cause holes or furrows to appear in the dirt. He can turn mud to solid ground. Wheeler has the power of fire. He can create and direct small fires or beams of flame. Come on, that's cool, right? And then you've got wind, Linka. She commands the wind. Quick of thought, she can command it with a swirl or gust, small tornadoes. Water, same thing. She can spout it out, smack you with a wave, control all the water. And then you've got heart. And this is from the Captain Planet Wikipedia entry, by the way. So this is official. His empathetic abilities allow him to feel emotions that provide valuable clues for his teammates during their adventures. I'm sorry, give me fire. Right? This idea of like heart, this idea of like, what is this about? Like what can we do whenever we're engaged with this stuff? Let me ask you this, church. When you gave Jesus your heart, right? That's the language that we used. What did that actually mean to you? It's a real question, because I'll tell you, I don't necessarily have a great answer for that. I think it's this thing that we have this prayer that we pray, and we express things in such a way that we say, I give you my heart, but it's really a question for me. What do we mean? I thought that maybe when I gave him my heart, he'd like have it, and maybe he'd protect it. And maybe that's as far as my thinking went, right? That he now has my heart, so I guess what does that mean? Like, okay, now he's got me. I guess this idea that all that I am is kind of included in my heart. And that begs the question then, church, are we our hearts? Whenever we talk about this metaphorically or maybe physically, what do we mean when we say we give him our hearts? The things that we want, the things that we desire, the things that we are passionate about? Because I will say that I think that one of the last things that Christians often mature into is the passionate stuff. Right? That when we give him our heart, often what we're trying to do is get away from the bad stuff. What we're often trying to do is protect things. We're actually trying to get away from those things that are tearing us down. And I think this idea of being engaged and fully alive comes later. If I'm not my thoughts, as we said last week, my intellect, maybe my identity is here. Spoiler alert for the series, all this and more. But it's not just this. You are not just your heart. But think about it. You feel like you really get to know somebody, right, whenever you understand the things that they care about. I feel like I got to know Leah really whenever I got to understand why she would drive home every weekend to be with her family. I got to know what she cared about. I got to know what she was hoping to see in her life. And all of a sudden, it's like, oh, I understand this person. I know this person. I love this person. And we can love the same things. Our hearts are going the same direction, that there's commonality here. You feel like you know somebody when you can see their heart. But let me ask you this. Have your desires ever changed? Yeah. Paul says this, I think, pretty definitively in 1 Corinthians 13:11. When I was a child, I talked like a child. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. And he's talking in a lot of ways, I think, about his thoughts, his minds, like we talked about last week. But I think it tracks for the rest of this as well. Because I've changed, praise God, I've changed. I've grown up. I really didn't consider, though, I think when I gave Jesus my heart, that my affections might change. We use this in pre-service prayer, and I think it's a pretty beautiful, powerful psalm. This is Psalm 37. The whole thing is worth reading, but I'm just going to give us the first 4 verses for us here. Do not fret because of those who are evil, or be envious of those who do wrong. For like the grass they will soon wither, like green plants they will soon die away. Trust in the Lord and do good. Dwell in the land and enjoy safe pasture. Here's the part. Take delight in the Lord, and he will give you the desires of your heart. And oh, if you're like me, the broken, selfish part of you just latches on to that last little bit, and you think, so wait a minute. Is this saying what I think it's saying? If I give God enough praise, I can get anything that I want. And I can have my own like God-sized genie here to get all these things. All I have to do is just take delight in him. I just have to get my heart over that hump, and like all that stuff, all the things, all the fame, all the glory, all the material wealth, all those things could finally be mine. And oh, this is it. This is what we've been looking for. I found the secret verse that if you pray this to God, you can hold him accountable. You'll say, this is in your word, so come on. Yeah, somebody's done this. Right? So is this a loophole? But here's the thing, really. It doesn't say discard your delights. It's not suppress your passions. It's saying align them. It's saying bring them closer to him. Bring your heart to God. And really, the rest of it just kind of makes sense. Right? And he will give you the desires of your heart. It's almost a matter of fact, cause and effect sort of analysis, right? That as my desires in him, and I come close to him, then that desire will be satisfied. It's the same way of saying that if you're hungry, eat. If you're thirsty, drink. And here the desires of your heart can be known and understood. Maybe, just maybe, it isn't also that he satisfies the things that I want, but maybe he infuses my heart with desire. He literally gives me the desires of my heart. It's transformed. Maybe a better word is it's redeemed. Something weird happened to me as I grow older. Do you ever crave like something healthy? Like as a kid, I never expected this. I thought it would always be chocolate chip cookies. Like that would always be what I wanted to eat. But something weird has happened that like if I do something very physical, like if I go for a run or if I go for a long swim or if I'm doing all these things, like the idea of coming back and just like downing a Coke really fast is like terrible. But like there's this part of me that just is thirsty for water, And then there was this time where Brussels sprouts were the grossest thing ever. And then all of a sudden I just realized there's something that kind of works for me. And it's like, oh no, have I become my parents? Like have I, when did I become this guy that doesn't mind these things? And it's not because you feel guilty, but I have found that when my body is working well, literally, when my physical body is functioning well, it craves things that it needs. It just makes sense, right? So this short series that we're in now, we're calling it Come Closer. And we're basing this whole thing off the Shema. This is Deuteronomy 6, 4 through 5, which Jesus restates as the greatest command. And here it is for us again. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your strength. And when Jesus reframes this in the New Testament, he has this really interesting addition that he uses the mind, and we talked about that last week. And so this week we're going to talk about rending our hearts, bringing our hearts to him. We talked about how we are not our minds, but that our minds, our theology is in need of redemption, and that they are better when they come closer to him, to our God and our King. So this week for Palm Sunday, we're going to talk about our hearts. So I touched on this earlier, but let's get serious about what is my heart. It's part of who I am, but it's not all that I am. You are not your thoughts. You're not your intellect. You're not your mental capabilities. You're more than that, and you are not your heart. You are not what you care about. You are not your passions, though sometimes they feel like they control us. Or sometimes their lack feels like an emptiness to us when we feel aimless, when we have no heart, no desire, don't know what to do with ourselves. I actually had a whole breakdown of the Greek and the Hebrew for heart. Completely worthless. Don't even worry about it. So I struck that because there's really not much there to know. You know what this is talking about. It's talking about this core of our desires, this idea of who we are. When we talk about it, it's really we know what we mean, I think, without giving a specific language for it. But I will tell you this story. I was getting an ultrasound. Dentists sometimes won't clean your teeth if you have a heart murmur. Did you know this? Very frustrating. When you move here, you got a new dentist, and I'm trying to see them, and they're like, well, on your chart, I see that you have a heart murmur, so no, we can't clean your teeth. I'm like, I've been getting my teeth cleaned my whole life. Like, it's fine. Just clean my teeth. But they're like, no, we have to get you to a cardiologist. You're going to get an ultrasound, and we'll watch for this heart murmur, see what it is. So here I am on the table, all that cold gel going, and I see on the screen my beating heart. This is not my heart. This is somebody else's heart. I have never felt so mortal in my life as watching my heart beating on a screen and having no control over it. Like, is that a bad one? And it's this terrifying thing of seeing, oh my goodness, this thing is keeping me alive. And I have no control over it. I can't make it beat. I can't make it stop beating. I can't, what can I do to this thing? This is a precious part of me. It really matters that my heart is well taken care of. Maybe I do need to give Jesus my heart, right? So this idea that what it is, what we're about, and being absolutely dependent upon it, having very little control over it. So the heart wants what the heart wants. Have you heard this? This is Emily Dickinson. I don't know how you feel about that. I think it's actually a really powerful exploration kind of on just confronting your desires. It's okay. The heart wants what the heart wants. To know yourself and to know what you are, to know those things that drive you, those things that motivate you, bring them before the Lord, let them be redeemed. In themselves, they're not probably good, but when they're in his light, when they come closer to him, these things take on a new shape. They're beautiful. They're powerful. They're things to be embraced and encouraged. We talked about this a little bit in pre-service prayer as well. Again, this is an encouragement. Everybody should come to pre-service prayer. About when Jesus was about to be crucified and a jar of expensive perfume was broken before him. It was just passion. It was just love. There's no calculus. Or if there was a calculus, it's with the wave of the hand saying the cost means nothing. The idea being, here we are engaging with our hearts. Here we are pouring out our love, our affection, our devotion, our futures. I remember it meant a lot to me. There's this whole tradition. This is not a brag. This is, in fact, the opposite of that. But where they say that when a guy gets an engagement ring, that it should be, 3 months' salary? I think that's the old classic thing, right? Well, as a college student, you have no salary. So I was like, 3 times 0. Here you go, Leah. No, but that wasn't it. What I had been doing is I had been saving since I was a kid. And I had all of my savings. And I remember I said, I pledge to my future wife all that I have done to this point and all that I will have in the future. I cashed out all of my, this is not wisdom that I'm teaching to the young people in our church, that this is how you should do this, but it was a passionate thing. The calculus wasn't what I wanted to be the important part. What I wanted to be was my future I pledge to my wife. Where I came from and where I'm going, we do this together. That to me is a picture of what we see here, right? With the broken perfume jar. It's worth far more if we sold it. Like we could work the cost-benefit analysis of this. We could find the optimum point to sell when the market is high, and we want to buy when the market's low. All these sorts of things that people do, but that's not what this was. The heart wants what the heart wants. And the heart close to Jesus wants to delight Jesus. What a beautiful expression of worship. And then we read this in Jeremiah 17:9. This is often abused and misused. The heart is deceitful above all things and beyond cure. Who can understand it? Who's heard this one before? Who's felt shame and fear from this one? Who has felt like, I'm just going to check out of all of emotional things, because who can even trust their own heart? We have been taught sometimes, church, from well-meaning people to fear our hearts. Jeremiah says it's deceitful. They're beyond cure. No one can understand it. His warning here is for people who have hardened their hearts against God. You should read the context of this. These are people who had removed themselves from the proximity to the Father. Instead of coming closer, they were going away. They were engaged actively in hardening their hearts and being as far away from God as they could. They were using idolatry. They were calling his truth a lie. They were doing the opposite of all of these things. So he's not saying don't entrust your heart to yourself. He's not saying never trust your heart. He's saying don't entrust your heart to yourself, because they've gone further away. We hear this like I guess this is just what the heart's like. You just can't trust it. It's deceitful above all things. Who can do it? But the very next verse, which we often don't read at the same time, is this: I, the Lord, search the heart and examine the mind. What are we seeing here? We're seeing redemption. We're seeing the effect of somebody bringing their heart closer to the Father. We're seeing this is the statement of where you're at. And now look what happens whenever it comes close. Look at the redemptive story. I, the Lord, search the heart. So no, you can't fully trust your heart, but you can bring it to the one who knows it better than you do. Desire is redeemable. I want you to hear that, church. Desire is redeemable. It's not irredeemable. Your heart isn't hopeless. It's just not self-sufficient. You weren't meant to be an island to yourself. You weren't meant to be only in your own head and only in your own desires and just trying to satisfy this big hole in your chest. Your desire is redeemable. The invitation of our gospel is not get your heart right and then come closer. It's bring your whole heart and let God awaken it. That is the good news. To love God with all your heart doesn't mean your heart is flawless. It means it's offered. It means that it's surrendered to the God who understands what it longs for, sometimes better than you do. Jeremiah tells us the truth. Left alone, your heart might fool you, but Jesus tells us a deeper truth. Brought near to God, your heart can burn with holy fire. It can chase things that will never satisfy. It can love the wrong things too much or the right things too little, but that doesn't mean the heart is useless. It means that the heart needs to be searched, known, and awakened. And that's exactly what God promises to do when we come closer. You don't need a heart that's already cured. You need a heart that's already God's. You don't need a heart that's already cured. You need a heart that's already God's. Psalm 139:23, search me, O God, and know my heart. And in Romans 8:26, the Spirit intercedes because we do not know how to pray as we ought. He already knows these things. He has the best plan for this. It's that hope that somebody who knows you better than you know yourself, who can make it all make sense, who can awaken those passions and say, it's a good thing. I'm so glad to see you fully awake, fully desiring these things, living out your life as you're really meant to. These scriptures acknowledge that we don't really understand our hearts, but that doesn't make them bad. It makes them dependent. I have this fear that my desires, my heart, my affections, my longings will mislead or disappoint me, or that they'll be impossible to satisfy. This is me, Josh, talking. Or maybe worse, I think that they'll be silly and childish and that people won't like them, right? That the things that make me excited about life, the things that delight me, somebody's going to look at that and laugh, and I will feel shame. And I will want to not do that anymore. I don't know if that's relatable to anybody else. This is Josh personal therapy time. So I've got the microphone now. Just let me get this out. I'll be fine, right? We have this fear that it's not respectable. We have this fear that maybe it's as stupid as it sounds, right? That's just not cool enough, right? That the things I like looking at the stars in a telescope, that's not very cool, you know? And then it's that sort of thing. Do we ever get beyond that in our lives? I rebel against this picture of the faith that we have as dispassionate or foreign to ourselves. The picture of the saint who only desires pure and proper things. This, like, I will only be satisfied at the feet of Jesus, and I will just pray. I don't even need food or water. I'm just going to pray, and that will sustain my soul. I feel like it's not obtainable for most people. And it's not relatable, because there are things of this world that are good, that we find delight in. And so what, should we say butter and cream and garlic are bad? Should we avoid all these pleasures that we have before us? The chocolate? The idea that I so closely identify, though, with my appetites, the idea of them not being satisfied or changing is dangerous to my understanding of who I am. I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying. If I so closely identify who I am with my appetites, then if those appetites are not satisfied, it's a threat to me. Can you understand what I'm saying? If my desires are who I am, then the only way I can be the best me is to satisfy them. And so we get lust, and we get greed, and we get people who just want and want, they consume and consume because I must be these things because they are the things that are directing my actions. What I do in this world is an outflow of my heart. So therefore, the only way that I am not lost to the times is if I can satisfy this hunger. Maybe this is all of our therapy, because I think that this is what we are seeing redeemed when we bring our hearts to Jesus. When we actually see these desires changed. There's this picture of the person who you used to love and who you'd hang out with, and you'd get stoned or drunk, or you'd pick up girls, and all of a sudden they're a Jesus freak, as that's the old language. I don't know if people say that anymore. And whatever that means, you don't relate any longer because it took something from you. This is such a classic story that even if I just use that language that you've lost a friend to the faith, a lot of people in here, you probably have either been that friend or seen that friend, or you know how that has gone down. And it's this idea of, what are we doing? Like, how is this the story? What is the goodness in here? How is this supposed to go? What does this look like? Can I tell you, I don't like jazz music. I've tried. I have tried. Like, we had a jazz quartet play at our wedding, and I liked them. And I have gotten jazz albums trying to get into it, and I can't. I don't know. It's not rhythmic enough. It's not melodic enough. It's not predictable enough. I listen to it, and I'm like, cool people like jazz. I'd like to be a cool person, or sophisticated people like jazz. Yeah, okay. I'm going to like jazz, and I don't. I just don't. And I feel bad. I really do. Or I could talk about our palates. We don't put any moralistic judgment on our palates, right? I love spicy food. It's not that it's not spicy. It burns. It literally burns my mouth. I have esophageal problems because of all the spicy food, and I don't stop because I love spicy food. Leah can't take the heat. I want to share this with her. I want this joy to be something that we enjoy together. But you know what? No joy. And cilantro and lime together are the best combination, right? Yeah? Tastes like toilet bowl cleaner to Leah. What am I supposed to do with that? When I'm making guacamole and I put in all the cilantro and all the lime, and her appetites, her desires are so diametrically opposed to mine. It's hard, y'all. This is now marital counseling. We're going to go down this road. Some of us, church, have quietly assumed that faith is a personality trait. We've assumed that it's something that you have or you don't, something that you're inclined to or that you're not. And what we say is, oh, you're just interested in those things. You just like to talk about Jesus. Well, I'm just not like that. I just don't care about those things, right? We think that it's like, oh, you like spicy foods, you like Jesus and you like jazz music, and like we put people in these boxes trying to understand what they're like. Something you have that you don't, something you're inclined to or you're not, something you care about or not. We allow a way of thinking, well, I'm just not wired that way. It's not a temperament or a hobby or a fleeting passion. It's the redeemed mind and the redeemed heart coming closer to their created potential. That's what the faith is. It's the redemption of these things. You are not the sum of your affections. Faith may not begin with your heart, but it will transform it. And this is why I think whenever we see our friends and they're struggling with all this stuff, this is what they should hear. They should see man fully alive, not distancing themselves, not becoming wholly unrecognizable, but man fully alive, embracing life as it's meant to be. I don't believe there's one way to follow our hearts to God. Musical worship is something that the church kind of settled upon, and I don't know if there was a vote, right? But we just kind of said, like, hey, if you're passionate about God, sing a song, right? And some people have told me before, that's not me. What do I do? You know what? That's fine. I don't think we're all the same way. Some people, as Leah likes to quote, you can't carry a tune in a bucket. Participating in congregational worship is powerful. It's good. It's soothing for our soul. I think that there's a lot of merit for why we do this thing and why we do this thing so beautifully. But some people have different ways to show their passion. There's no historical evidence that Christ is in awestruck, transcendent worship of the Father. We don't see the early church holding musical worship nights. But we do see in Luke 24:32, our hearts were burning when they discerned Jesus. They felt that same thing. Our discernment was something that led us to our hearts burning. It's not like, oh, my mind clicked. It was, no, my heart was caught on fire because I saw him. No surprise, this series is about bringing your whole self closer to God himself. We, church, we're not all the same. We're not in the same place at the same time. So Palm Sunday, hearts on display. I think it's a popular choice. I'm going to read the Palm Sunday passage here. And I think when we think about the crowds worshiping, right, we think that they cried, Hosanna, God save us, and they cried, crucify him, just a week later. And that's true. We don't actually know it's the same crowd. Could have been different people. Maybe that's true. But we like to say this because we talk about how fickle we are, how fickle our hearts change. Fair point. But I like to think that there's actual sincerity in both scenes. That when they said Hosanna, they meant it. And when their hope was disappointed, they were crushed and they were dismissive and they said, crucify him. I believe there was sincerity of the heart in both things that led them away from coming closer to Jesus. Can you give me that? It's an exploration of this that I don't know that we often hear. This is from Luke 19. After Jesus had said this, he went on ahead, going up to Jerusalem. As he approached Bethpage and Bethany at the hill called the Mount of Olives, he sent 2 of his disciples, saying to them, go to the village ahead of you, and as you enter it, you will find a colt tied there, which no one has ever ridden. Untie it and bring it here. If anyone asks you, why are you untying it, say, the Lord needs it. Those who were sent ahead and went, and they found it just as he had told them. As they were untying the colt, its owner asked them, why are you untying the colt? They replied, the Lord needs it. They brought it to Jesus, threw their cloaks on the colt, and put Jesus on it. As he went along, people spread their cloaks on the road. When he came near the place where the road goes down the Mount of Olives, the whole crowd of disciples began joyfully to praise God in loud voices for all the miracles they had seen. Blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. Peace in heaven and glory in the highest. Some of the Pharisees and the crowd said to Jesus, Teacher, rebuke your disciples. I tell you, he replied, if they keep quiet, the stones will cry out. Most Palm Sunday readings stop there with verse 40, but let's add 41. As he approached Jerusalem and saw the city, he wept over it. That verse is always such a stopping point for me. He's not overly moved by this worship. He's not elated on cloud 9 and just like, hey, I'm the stuff. He's not feeling all this joy from their praise and just like everything is just clear and it's going to come up roses and everything is going to just as it should be. He looks at the town, he looks at the city, and he weeps. He's not placated by their words. He doesn't roll his eyes because they don't get it. He doesn't scoff at their ignorance. He weeps. Not because they got it wrong, but because they were so close and they still didn't recognize what would bring them peace. Their hearts were burning for rescue. They thought that they were going to get a political Messiah. They wanted this redemption. They wanted this hope. They wanted this salvation. They're hungry for salvation, aching for justice. They're ready for joy. They just didn't realize what it would look like. And isn't that us? C.S. Lewis phrases it this way. We are half-hearted creatures, fooling around with drink and sex and ambition when infinite joy is offered us. Like an ignorant child who wants to go on making mud pies in a slum because he cannot imagine what's meant by the offer of a holiday at the sea. This is us. This is looking for politics to be our answer. This is looking for justice at the hands of another human. This is the idea that here we can find, oh, Jesus is coming. Come on, Hosanna. We're gonna elect you president, and it's gonna be fantastic. And Jesus looks at the city and he weeps. Why? Because you got to come closer. You're still looking for this world. You're still looking to make this about something that you can hold on with your two hands. So how do we know that our heart needs to come closer? How do we know that we're not fools waiting for something else from Jesus, settling for less than what he came to bring? Spoiler alert, we all need to come closer. Some of us aren't opposed to God. We're just tired or apathetic. Or we're going through the motions. Before I give you the diagnosis, y'all know Yo-Yo Ma? I don't know why. I love Yo-Yo Ma more than I love jazz. But he has a $2.5 million cello, a Stradivarius thing, okay? He was going, like he loves his cello more than I do, okay? And he's in a taxi cab going to a concert. Guess what he does? He leaves his cello in the cab of the taxi. And he goes in, and he's like hanging out, like getting ready to go perform. And like someone's like, do you have your cello for the sound check? He's like, oh, shoot. Taxi had left. It's in there like this whole big thing, $2.5 million cello, just going for a ride around New York City. It wasn't that he didn't love it. It's not that he didn't care. It's not that he was apathetic. He was tired. He was distracted. Have you ever been tired? Have you ever been distracted? And things that you care about just didn't even show up? And you feel like, oh my goodness, my heart is so deceitful. I must be so bad. And we feel all this shame when maybe you're just tired and you need a nap. And that's okay. Heart diagnostics. When our heart needs to come closer. We show up to worship, but our hearts aren't in it. We go through routines, but something's missing. So what do? Do you fake it, power through, or do you just come closer? When's the last time you felt passionate about God, not just grateful, but hungry? Hungry. You ever catch yourself thinking, I know I should care more, but I just don't? You ever worshiped louder than your body, than with your heart? What if God is not offended by your lack of passion, but inviting you to come closer? If you worship, but you're watching the clock. If you pray, but it feels like you're leaving a voicemail. If you serve, but it's guilt that gets you to show up. If you read scripture, but it's like a checklist and a lifeline. If you're showing up physically, but internally you're somewhere else. And then maybe you're emotionally disconnected. Maybe you used to feel awe in worship. Now you just feel tired. Maybe you hear stories of God's goodness and you feel numb instead of inspired. Maybe you find it easier to cry during a Netflix show than when reading about the cross. You're not broken, but your heart just might be asleep. If you're living on autopilot, if you're checking spiritual boxes but can't remember the last time that you were moved, if you've told yourself, this is just a dry season, but that season has lasted for years. If you're successful on the outside but restless, bored, and discontent inside. If you're functioning but not flourishing. Y'all got quiet. Am I putting my finger on something? If you're performing more than pursuing. If you're more concerned with appearing together than actually drawing near. If you feel pressure to keep up a spiritual image, especially around certain people. If you volunteer a lot but rarely stop to just be with God. If you're acting the part but not feeling the presence. I'm going to draw up my favorite part of the sermon. Augustine's an interesting guy. But I'm going to give you some of his quotes. Augustine, in brief, was a man of passion. He had a concubine for 10 years. He went to college. He got drunk all the time. He was like the fraternity guy on campus. The whole while his mom's praying for him. His redemption reordered his loves. He's the theologian who gave us the idea that sin, I don't know how you think about sin. He considers sin a disordered love. Like, you love everything. Like, you're a person of passion. Like of course you're going to care about these things. Sin is whenever your ordering of those things that you love is wrong. That's it. That's a pretty good thing. But he was such a person of passion. And he says this, you have made us for yourself, O Lord, and our heart is restless until it rests in you. Isn't that a good one? What does it mean to believe if not to give our heart? The entire life of good Christian is a holy desire. And then about his actual conversion, he said this, I was in love with love. I searched for you outside myself while all along you were within me. Let me ask you this way. Can you imagine a half-hearted Jesus? Can you imagine a man who was willing to die, but really because he's just kind of apathetic about life? It's just like, yeah, okay, I'll take the cross. It doesn't match up. It's not compelling. The invitation this week is not to feel more. It's to bring more of your actual self to God. Bring your burning passion. Bring your boredom. Bring your apathy. Bring your distracted, disordered, sleepwalking heart. Bring your heart closer to Jesus. With all the benefits, all the distractions, all that it is, bring it closer to him. Jesus didn't wait for perfect worship to enter Jerusalem. He came into the noise, the confusion, the misunderstanding. He wept and he stayed. So maybe your Hosanna today is unsure. Maybe it's whispered. Maybe it's tangled up in unmet expectations. Bring it anyway. Because when you come closer, your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength, something happens. Your desires are not just acknowledged, they are healed. They are reordered. You don't need a new heart. You need a God who knows you better than you, and you have one.